We got holes in it. Sheesh. What up, what up? I don't be really doing lives and shit. I rarely pop on this motherfucker, but I'm gonna fuck around on this shit, I guess. I just want to tell y'all a little story. My story. I don't know if people know it like that, but I'll tell you a little bit. So, I was doing a charity for the UFC and shit. And they wanted me to tell a story, and I didn't realize little parts of my story. I'm like, man, I didn't forgot about that shit. And so, to anybody who's ever been through some shit, like, my story be to kind of uplift y'all and shit like that, like, let you know that anything's possible and shit. And so, when I was born in San Bernardino, and my mama, she was going through a rough time at that point in time. And we ended up getting taken and going into foster care. I go to foster care. Well, my dad wasn't on the birth certificate. So they didn't know that my dad's mom was my dad. And so they basically was able to get foster care for me and my little brother, even though we wasn't under my dad's name. So my grandma claimed us, and she could make a little money while she take care of her kids, low key. You know what I'm saying? So we was fucking around over at my grandma's house. One time, my dad was there, and I just remember like the police. The first time I remember met like SWAT police and shit. The motherfuckers kicked the door down. They kicked the door down. Boom. They had big ass guns. They made everybody get on the floor and shit. And they took my dad. And I was tripping out. I was like, fuck. Like, this is my first introduction. I was sad because, like, I really didn't get to see my dad. But when my dad would come by, he was the only person to let me go outside. Like, my grandma made me do chores all fucking day. I had to do fucking sweeping, cleaning. I'll be fucking doing all kind of shit. I have to make coffee. I got to do all the dishes in the morning. I got to make sure the floor is all back to before grandma gets up or I'm getting ass whooping. So I do that shit. But when my dad came, he would be like, Dad, can I go play? And I play with a little kid named Vincent next door. We play video games and shit. And he'd be like, yeah. He said, yeah, all the time. So I love when my dad came by. And they took my nigga. And they were just like, dang. So then my dad, he went to prison because he basically got shot. I think he got shot like 5 times, you know what I mean? He still got some of the bullets in him, but he got shot like 5 times. And then after the shit, he got shot like 5 times. After the shit, he ran back in and shot the other niggas. And so he blew the nigga head off and he ended up going to prison. I think it was like 6 years. I was like 6 or something at the time. So I didn't see my dad again until I was like 12. And then when I first saw him and shit, we were hanging out. My dad's this big, strong dude. He would break all the records in jail for fucking weightlifting and shit. And so he comes home, he's this big dude, and all these girls are getting on him, and I'm like kind of getting the use of a dad. And then that motherfucker left like a month later and shit, found a girl, and he moved on and did his thing. And so I was with my grandma. My grandma was like my mom and my dad, you know? And I'm going to high school, I'm learning about wrestling, doing a little wrestling shit. And then my grandma dies. So then when my grandma died, she was like my mom and my dad. And now I lost both of them, basically. You know what I'm saying? So I'm on the wrestling team, and I'm the captain of the wrestling team. And there's some white people in the family that kind of know that I'm a good dude. They fuck with me. They're like, hey, you a good dude. And so they kind of go through the foster care system and get me. They go to the foster care and get me. And so now they getting paid through foster care to take care of me and shit. And so I'm fucking with these white people now. Living in this white house. And it's like the first time like really getting like used to white people, learning about rock and roll and shit like that. And so I moved with them, and then they kicked me out. They kicked me out because they thought I stole a car. They thought I stole a car. I was 16 and I was working at Stater Brothers. And on my time off, me and the Mexican homie, I grew up with my Mexican homie. His family's like my family and shit. So he already know how to drive and shit. So when we get like our little lunch or some shit like that, we drive down the street. We drive down the street. He teach me how to drive. I learn how to drive and shit. So now that I learned how to drive, one day I came home from lunch and I just drove right down the street. And my little brother saw me in the car and he snitched on me. So I came home and I definitely thought I stole a car. They was wondering how I got this car. And so I came home and shit. My dad was like, you gotta leave. You gotta go. And he kicked me out. And so I was fucked up. I was tripping out. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I'm 17 years old. I graduated when I was 17, so I just graduated high school. I'm 17 years old. I got kicked out now. I don't know what to do. So I ended up going to this teacher house and live with this fucking teacher and shit. And then a bunch of bullshit happened there, and that's neither here nor there. I leave his house. Now, I just turned 18 now. I try to I start living in my aunt's house. I went from that house to another house to this house where I started living in my aunt's house. I'm staying there and I'm working at this railroad company and shit. And my car, the police just pulled me over and I don't got registration on my car. So they took my car. So I'm like, fuck. I'm going through all kind of bullshit. So now I'm walking to work. I lose that job. Some bullshit, some minor this bullshit happened. I lose that job. So then after I lose that job, I go to the military. I go to the army. One of the stories I'm trying to explain is that I was willing to do anything and everything to make it, you know? I was willing to do anything and everything to make it. All I wanted to do was to be able to have a house. That's all I wanted out of this shit. Like everybody, like a normal American, just to have a house, you know? And so... Hello. So we just got a hole in it right there. See the hole? Yeah, and so all I wanted was an opportunity to get a house and shit. And so now I'm going to the military. I go to the military. This is around the 2004 like Iraq war time. So it's already in our heads. We going to war. You know what I mean? And so I go to I get shipped out and do my boot camp. But the thing about my job is I was a 21 Bravo, and it's a combat engineer. We fuck with demolitions and shit like that. And so the way this job worked, it puts you it puts your AIT and your boot camp all together. Normally you do 8 weeks of boot camp, then you do your AIT, which may be 10, 11 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is, and it's depending upon the AIT. And so they take both of those and they put them together into, I think it was a 21 or 22 week camp. And so you don't just go for your 8 weeks and graduate. You got to go through the whole 21, 22 week camp to graduate. So I get shipped out. I'm in the military. I'm doing all that shit. I'm the number one private, maybe number two, if I'm going to say that, number two guy in my whole company, Fitness, athlete, all that type of shit. Well, we get to week number 21 where we're getting ready to graduate the next week. We're shooting our rounds. We're qualifying for shooting, and you're going to see if you're a marksman or you're a sniper or you're a blah, 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 And so we're all shooting our guns. Well, there was another private from another company that didn't graduate. He didn't graduate. He got brought back into another company. So when he didn't graduate with his people, he now gets held back, and it's like, damn, I flunked. So now you got to come back with us with a whole bunch of new dudes you don't know. You don't know nobody. So he kind of unhappy. So we get into the thing, we're shooting our guns. We go back to the gun shack where we all shot our guns at. And everybody's excited. Everybody's talking shit to each other. Hey, woo, we're talking, blah, blah, blah. From there, all of a sudden, the lieutenant walks in. When he walks in, he's supposed to come to attention, And so nobody comes to attention. Everybody's like, what the fuck, And so we're all just bullshitting. And our drill sergeant gets pissed off. So he comes in. He yells at us. He's like, we're going back to week 1. You guys are fucking doing this bullshit over again, So we're all fucked up, We're all mad. We're all back at attention, like, just sitting there like, Well, this fucking guy who got held back starts mouthing off as soon as they leave. He starts running his mouth like, man, fuck this, I'm gonna do this, And so I go, hey, bro, chill the fuck out, Because in the Army, if you one fuck up, we all get fucked up. So I'm like, hey, bro, kick the fuck back, They already been yelling at us talking about going back to week 1. You're gonna fucking make it worse, So I tell him, kick back. When I tell him that shit, he like, hey, fuck you, whoop, whoop. He called me a nigger, And back in that days, I was 18 years old. I fought for like 2 things. You talk about my mama or you call me a nigger. That's what it was a thing back in the day. And so I went up there, I took off my helmet, I put my gun down, and I went up there to go get at him. I went up there, and he tried to swing his gun at me. He tried to swing his gun, I slipped it, and I hit him. Bah! I hit him, and I changed, bam, bam, I'm hitting him on the ground, bam, bam, And then the drill sergeant came. He came and he sees us. He's like, hey, Green, put your shit on. He's trying to tell me to put my shit on because the colonel's coming. And so, put your shit on. I'm trying to hurry put my shit on. The lieutenant comes by and sees us, and he's like, hey, you go that way, you go that way. Separates us. So when he separates the 2, he asks us what happened. I go, I don't know what he asked, what that guy said. When he comes and asks me, I go, hey, the dude was mouthing off. He started talking shit. I told him, shut the fuck up. He tried to hit me with his gun, so I fired on him. And so, us being in the military, and you don't know, this guy's from Nebraska, this guy's from Florida, this guy's from Texas. We all got different slang. And so my slang was I fired on him. And he took it like we're on a gun range and I fired on him. This guy's crazy, Not like I fired on him, I punched him. And so he took it the slang like, hey, I don't know about this guy. And so I got really painted this bad picture like I was some type of bad dude or whatever not. And I got kicked out the military. So now, I think I had like $7,000 in the account. They took that shit out. I think they left me with like $1,500. And they sent me on a 5-day bus. So I go back on the bus. I'm on the bus for 5 days. I take that shit. I come back home. I'm fucking like, that was supposed to be my ticket out of this shit, thinking like that's what I'm going to be, what I'm going to do. And now this shit bullshit. And so I come back home. But my Mexican homie told me when I was leaving, he was like, hey, bro, go back home to the family. Go back home to the family, They'll help you and shit. So I go back and stay with these Mexican people, with my family and shit, And so I'm staying with them. But the little brother, he always jealous of me and shit, He always just hating that I'm there. He wants his own space. And so I can feel him just hating on me and shit. They end up telling me, I gotta go. So now, to the next house. So you're going house to house. I said I've been in 50 different homes, you know what I mean? From San Bernardino, Rialto, Fontana, Riverside, Moreno Valley. I don't say I'm from nowhere, really. I just claim the IE because I've been everywhere around this motherfucker, And so, now, how am I going to get to the top? How am I going to be successful? That's what I'm trying to do. I now fucked myself up over this stupid shit with the Army. I tried to go back. I now get my big brother. I say, hey, let's go to the Army. I get this motherfucker. Let's go. Let's go. I try to get him to go. But my paperwork taking so long since I got I gave me a general discharge. And so my paperwork taking too long. I'm trying to go back. Like, I'll go with you now, And so they end up sending him out and kind of keeping me back. They sent him like a whole month or 2. My paperwork never go through. And my brother go to war now without me. I hate this shit to this day. He went to war, to the Iraq war, and I never went. My fighting started taking off. I was doing side jobs, like, I think I was moving dead bodies at the time. Yeah, I was working this one job where I was moving dead bodies. Niggas like, you know how niggas be dying on the motherfucking, like, say you die right now, Jody. Say you passed out and died. And they call the police. The coroner come check your body and shit. And then somebody got to move the body, you know? So,
yeah, but they leave you there for hours.
Yeah, you be there for hours. You don't know that your body release fluids. You know what I mean? It fart. It do all kind of little shit. It's kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm working this job and shit through a friend. She like want to work there. I'm like, whatever it takes to get some money, I'm willing to do it. So I'm working this job and it's fucking nuts. You go in this house, all these people crying. So it's all your homies around. You know what I mean? And so say we upstairs, your body's upstairs. You gotta take this nigga downstairs. You gotta go around the fucking cut, and you trying to get this body in it heavy too. You know, don't bump their head.
Pick up the body all the time. That's not the corner.
That's what else you would think so. But this job, we pick them up, we take them to the morgue, we're taking bodies to the hospital, we're doing all kind of shit. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm just learning about the job, you know? And so we did that shit, and I was doing it for like a week or two. And I'm like, all right, this shit, whatever. But this shit was cool, but it was just fucking crazy, you know? Now I do it with the big boss. He take me out on a date with him. So I'm driving around with him. He's just fucking talking. We go pick a body up. We pick this old man up. We put him in the car. We pick this other chick up. We put her in the car. Well, he's talking. He forgot that he already got 2 bodies in the bag. And then we went to go pick up another body that got called. And he just, stack them on top of each other. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, just stack them on top of each other. All right, fuck. You know, so I'm stacking these bodies and shit. You know, I told you they release fluids and shit. Like, I swore one of them breathed on me and shit. Like, it was trippy, you know what I mean? I got shit all over me. I'm like, man, I gotta get the fuck up out of this job, but I gotta do something. And that's when the fighting shit started popping off. And so, my point is, I didn't do everything to be here, bro, to earn this shit. I earned this shit with my heart, during blood, sweat, and tears. I didn't even get into the fight story. I didn't tell you nothing about that shit. That was just a journey to get to that point. And trust me, the fight story is way worse. But that was just the start of it. A little story time. I'm out of here, y'all. Bye.